Welcome to The Coach Within. I'm your host, Coach Jedi, a podcast where transformation begins from the inside out. Here, we explore coaching conversations that unlock clarity, spark insight, and bring you closer to your purpose. Whether you're a coach, a leader, or someone on the journey of personal growth, you're in the right place. Each episode brings real stories, practical tools, and thought-provoking reflections to help you thrive in life, leadership, relationships, and dreams. Let's journey inward, ignite the coach within, and brave your story. Welcome everyone back to Brave Coaching. Now, Brave Your Story isn't about just a concept, isn't something to be taught, but it's around helping you brave who you are with brave living, brave leadership. It's all about helping us to be more confident with who we are, embracing the flaws, the gifts, the strengths, the talents, about who we really are. And today, I was coaching a client and I was thinking, hey, what a powerful topic that we can talk about on the idea of regret and treasuring or cherishing. And I call this topic 遗憾与珍惜. Now, 遗憾, it's the Chinese word for regrets. 珍惜 is the Chinese word which means to cherish or to treasure. Now, too often, many times when we think about our lives in general, and especially in the coaching space, one of the common challenges that most of us face is our clients may come to us with different stories that they tell us, whether it is in a career where they feel, hey, I'm feeling a lot of setbacks in my career. I felt like I made the wrong choice in my career aspirations, or maybe I felt the wrong choice of what I said to that person, or maybe to a customer, or maybe to a client, or maybe to my boss, or to my managers, or to my team. I felt I should have said this. I could have said that better. I ought to say this. I wish I said that. So whenever I hear the stories being shared in the coaching sessions, one thing that came to mind is I'm hearing a lot of subtle moments that are missed, or missed opportunities, or regrets, or moments that they felt that if they could change time, they would have treasured that moments more. And I thought, what better way to have a little pause in today's session than to bring us through what I call coaching reflection. Now, one of the most important things, especially when developing the coaching mindset, is for coaches sometimes just to pause, think, reflect, and just go deeper. And I want to invite you, whether you are through your level 1 training, level 2, level 3, or going towards MCC level, this video is going to be really important for you in this podcast series as well, because it's really helping you to get a deeper insight of what it means to really be a coach. Coaching is not just doing. Coaching is about being. And you need to do the work within yourself as a coach for you to grow. Many times coaches are just chasing after the credentials, the certificates, the next level of credentialing, forgetting the true essence of what it means to be a coach. Being a coach isn't about trying to do more, but it's learning more. It's about being there. It's about unraveling who we are. And in order for us to go deeper with our clients, we need to have first gone deeper within ourselves. And the best part of it all, it's for us to just say, hey, let's take a pause. Let's understand what's happening and let's go deeper. So the first step, it's really understanding this idea about these two words. And I call this 遗憾 and 珍惜在教练的对话里面. Right? A coaching reflection or a coaching journey of what it means to help the client embrace both the 遗憾, accept the 遗憾, and embrace the 珍惜. It's okay to feel regrets. It's okay to cherish. And this is part of what makes us human. Too often, I've seen and I've heard coaches or clients telling me, Jedi, I wish I have less regrets. Or Jedi, I could have helped my client to have no regrets. And every time I hear that, I hear one thing. Is it about just no regrets? Why are we trying to avoid the regrets? Should we avoid the regrets? Or what if it's okay to embrace the regrets and to treasure the moment? And so I want to share with us two characters, and I call these two characters of a lifetime. In our life, we would meet countless and countless times of regrets and countless of times of things that we treasure and cherish. And I like to say this, right? In this quiet space between moments lived and moments lost, two very important words whisper their presence. And I call that 遗憾
which is to regret, 珍惜, which is to cherish, to treasure. Now, when I was thinking about preparing this session to share with all of us here, especially during my coach supervision sessions for my coaches or mentoring sessions as well, one of the things that I thought about was, how do I convey what it really means when someone says, I have regrets, I have 遗憾. What does it really mean when someone says 珍惜, to treasure? And one of the distinct features, especially in language, is that in different language, the way meanings, words, expressions, ideas, philosophies, concepts are being communicated are very different. In the English language, it's more phonetic. In the Mandarin or in Chinese, it's a lot more pictographic. There are a lot of imageries that come to mind. And the different construction of the words form a picture. Traditional Chinese characters have a beautiful insight, and I love the traditional Chinese because in ancient times, we used to be drawing pictures, and it's a really pictographic language where every character has a meaning. Every radical, which is every single structure or construction of the words and characters, have a meaning. Just like the word 遗憾, there is different parts. The word 遗 is a combination of different characters or radicals. We call this radicals, where there's a composition of this movement. And another thing that's on top of the 遗, it's what we call precious. So it paints of something that's moving or something precious that's moved away. So even in the word 遗, the very first character here, you see this thing that looks like a thing that moves under the ocean. That thing on the left side is what we call movement or walking. The one that's sitting above that, this thing at the top, it's what we call precious, 珍贵, right? This is the precious things. And so when we think about that, is hey, even the first word of 遗 conveys that pictographic imagery of something precious have just moved away or walked away or has moved. And the idea is this, that there was once a treasure that was once near to us, but has now left our very presence. So it conveys not just a sense of regret, just the word expression of regret, but it conveys the idea that it once was close to us, it once was a part of us, it once was something that we truly embrace it and treasure it, but now has left our very presence. And that sense is 遗憾, right? And the other word for han, right, which is 遗憾, the word for han also has two radicals. The one on the left, the little line there, it's the expression for heart or emotion. The one on the right, which is 感, right, which is to feel a sensation. So the sensation of the feeling of the heart. So it feels like that word han expresses that sense of a heart that still feels what it no longer can touch. So when you bring these two together, it's not merely a mistake, but it's a heartache, it's an ache of that absence. So I was just recently walking up a huge flight of stairs, and one of the things that, if you have not been exercising for some time, after walking a flight of stairs, a long, long flight of stairs, when you come back down, you feel a little aching on your leg, a little sore. And this idea of 遗憾 is the conveyance of this idea that there's this soreness, there's this acheness that's happening within us. And this lingering presence of what could have been, but no longer is. And so this 遗憾 brings the idea and the pictographic imagery that it's not just regret, but this regret stays because we can still feel it. It's almost so tangible. So just like when I was climbing that huge flight of stairs, it was over. The event has ended, but the lingering impact, the lingering acheness, the lingering soreness still exist. And that sense of 遗憾 actually is what brings us to this place where I say, hey, you know what? I wish I live life with no regrets. But the reality of life is life, whenever we think that it's going well, would always surprise us with things that we least expected. And how we react or how we respond would really matter. It's not about rejecting regrets, but when it happens, it's about finding that comfort, that solace, that place where we can spend time with. And that's really what coaching is all about. Coaching, it's really partnering the clients through this creative and thought-provoking process to help them go deeper within themselves and say, hey, what is really happening for us? What is that space that we really want to go deeper in? To find that space where we could say, hey, you know what? I feel a little ihan, the E where I feel like there's a lingering presence of something that's lost, something that's left, something precious is left. Let's talk about it. Let's explore. Let's just be curious about why that is so for us. And it's okay to feel that way. In the coaching process, it's not for me to tell the client, don't feel this way, don't feel that way. In the coaching process, it's just for me to allow the client to just freely express in our presence. And for me, I'm not a judge. I'm not someone there to tell them how they should feel or how they ought to feel, but I'm someone there to hold the space for them, to allow them to process the experience, to process the emerging feelings, to process the lingering impact, and letting them know that I'm here for them. And the beauty of coaching is that in those moments, in those precious moments, something beautiful happens. And it's through those regrets that when we look back, there's this idea of an ability to zhen. And I like this idea of zhen because it's not just cherish, it's not just treasure. It's a state of being. Because zhen conveys the movement or the action, which is to be. Not just cherish, not just treasure, but to treasure, to cherish, which is in the state of being. So I like what the difference between the ihan and the zhen, because ihan it's done, it is that. But zhen has this connotation of the very present moment because of the idea and the connotation of to cherish. In English, we just usually say treasuring, cherishing each other. But the Mandarin or Chinese word has the conveyance of present moment cherishing, present moment treasuring in this very instance. And the word zhen, there's two radicals as well. On the left side, it looks like three lines, and in the middle, that is made up of the king, Wang Sang, treasure, jade. On the right side, right, you can see a little bit of that tooling, a little of the knife too. And so it's something that's carved with care for someone important. So the zhen, it's something that is crafted for someone that you truly care for. And the word si also has two radicals. When we talk about the line there, and that line with the two little dots on the side, that's the heart. And the other one, the other radical on the right side is the radical for past. So it's really holding what's dear to us. So combining that together, it's not only to value, but it's to give our heart to the moment and to embrace that, to cherish that memory. You know, I remember one instance when I was traveling around and I was noticing people going around taking pictures of the sights and sceneries, of the beauty of nature, of the beauty of the land. And when I see that, it often reminds me how sometimes I also enjoy just taking pictures. But sometimes I have to tell myself, hey, Jedi, just put on the phone, take it in, just embrace it, just cherish it, just relish in that moment, savor that moment. Because too often, when we look at life through a lens of the camera, of the phone, we really lose that memory. We lose that moment. Life, it's not about capturing just in pictures, although those are great. We can recount those pictures. But when that moment is over, it's an over moment. We can treasure that moment, but it was never the real moment that was in that moment. And so one of the hardest concepts or ideas to convey in the coaching process, or even to a coach, and especially when I'm doing coach education, people often ask me, Jedi, what is presence? What is moment? What is in that moment? What does that all mean? And I often tell them, I say, in the moment, it's not about doing, it's not about describing that situation, but it's about being there. And when you are being there, suddenly everything else fades away. You are treasuring, you are seeing, you are feeling, you're smelling, you're sensing everything that's around you. When was the last time we felt the breeze on our face or the rays of the sunlight hitting our face? And just this morning, when I was doing a little jog, along the streets, and I was saying, hey, should I go for a jog? Should I go for a run? And I say to myself, just why not? Just be in that moment, right? And I realized this whenever in that moment when I make a decision, I often find that that moment becomes something very special, very, very precious. And it's unlike other moments where I said, okay, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do your exercise, you got to do that. And when that happens, I find that I'm not in the moment. And even after I may have exercised, I just don't feel right. I just don't feel that I've gotten the best out of it. And then I realized something. I realized that it's because I had allowed that moment to infiltrate my cognitive mind. And I'm no longer present in that moment because I'm seeing it through the lens of the phone, seeing it through the lens of a spreadsheet, through the lens of a calendar. I'm allowing that to dictate my entire movement, and I fail to treasure that moment. And have you seen before in the streets, especially more touristy spots, you see people taking photos, lots and lots of photos. But when was the last time you have looked at your photo album and gone through it to relish those moments? So to 珍惜, it's sometimes to tell us, say, hey, give our heart fully to this very moment. Even in the coaching process, one of the hardest things for coaches to do is to let go and be in the moment. And oftentimes coaches will ask me, Jedi, but what if I forget about the technique? What about if I forget to do this? What if I forget to do that? I said, hey, the thing about coaching, it's not a concept to be taught, but an experience to be experienced. Coaching is not something that we just do. It's not accumulation of knowledge. It's not accumulation of models, frameworks. And today I know a lot of coaches love to accumulate the best questions, the best thing to do. Coaching is that simple conversation. I like to say simplicity of the conversation, having that authentic voice connection that goes beyond just that space and saying, hey, let's just talk today. What's in your mind? What would you like to explore today? What brings the greatest joy to you? What is on your mind? What's on your heart? What are you feeling in this moment? Coaching, it's about presence. And that presence, it's something more than just thought. It's something caught, but more than just caught, it's something to be experienced. And therefore, I often tell coaches, I said in my coach education, I say, especially when I did coach supervision and coach education, I said, presence, I can give you the definition, the theoretical definition, I can give you the research definition of it. But for you to really understand it, you'd have to experience it. Because just reading it, just reading the concepts, the sub-competencies, knowing what to do, it's only maybe like 1% or less than 1%. The 99% of what presence really is, it's being there in that moment with the client, with yourself, treasuring the authenticity in that space and not letting others kind of like pull you from left to right. And because that space, it's what makes those moments between lived moments that are lost. And so oftentimes people ask me, Jada, you know what makes your coaching different? How do we let coaching shine? I said, you have to taste and see. Just like meals and food around us, some of us prefer certain cuisine. Some of us prefer Thai food, Malay food, Chinese food, Indian food, Western food. And we have our best places that we will say, I love this food. Because some food brings back memories. It brings back our childhood, brings back some moments that we enjoy. And I remember one of my favorite food, I love sweet things as well. One of my favorite food is this very local Singaporean dish, and it's from the Indian community as well. It's putu mayam. It's just little noodles, dry noodles, and a little coconut, shredded coconut and some simple sugars. But it was always so special because it was a childhood memory that I had. There's an association there. And whenever I eat it, I'm savoring those moments. I'm reliving those moments again. And that's the space, the quiet space. And I often say, hey, coaches, find that quiet space for yourself because you need that quiet space for you to develop you. It's not about just focusing on the client all the time because if we spend 1 hour with the client, how are we spending the 1 hour with ourselves? If we spend 10 hours with the client, are we spending 10 hours with ourselves? And so my challenge to the coaches today is, how are you developing yourselves today? Are you just sitting passively or actively? Are you spending time to reflect? One of the things I love to do is bring coaches through expeditions. And I call this little brave retreats. We create retreats for coaches to go around different parts of the world, sometimes even through the park. We talk about life, we talk about things. It's a design element that's so special. And if you like to enjoy it, welcome. Just contact me. I would love to bring a few of you. And oftentimes it's a small group, because I find that when like-minded people come together, that space becomes no longer about critiquing, judging, over-analyzing, over-analyzing, overthinking, but it's about a place of just being, savoring that moment, tasting and seeing. And that's what I call that space between. So when you think about this, the coaching is about that space between that 遗憾, the regrets, and 珍惜, to cherish, to treasure. Coaching isn't about just solutions. So too often, many coaches just focus on, I want to get that solution, I want to get a result, I want to get the action, on let's solve this, let's do this, let's set goals, let's set objectives, let's set outcomes. We're so focused on goals that we forget about the soul, because coaching, it's about soul setting. It's about the invitation to the gentle space where the client can truly be. It's about confronting, meeting the regrets, the 遗憾, not with shame, but with curiosity, acceptance, and love, and care, and empathy, and practicing 珍惜, practicing to love. I remember one time I heard this song, beautiful song by J.J. Lin. It's called The Practice of Love. And it talks about how many times have we really practiced to love? To love someone is not just saying, I love you. To love someone, it's a practice. It's a conscious effort. It takes effort. It takes practice. It takes skilling. It takes time to practice to love. When was the last time you loved someone? You cared for someone? You love your children. You love your spouse. You love your family. You love your friends. You love your community, your society, people around you. When was the last time you practiced to love, to treasure, and to be aware of that very now, and to align the race that's on the outside? Because we're too often caught up in the race of life, trying to achieve more. By the age of 30, I must do this. By the age of 40, I must do it. By the age of 50, I must do that. So whenever I coach clients through their careers and through the leadership process, one of the things I often hear is that, Jedi, I'm 30 now. I'm 40 now. I don't have much time. I need to get there. I need to get this. I need to do that. I often hear breathlessness. They're almost like chasing, never quite slowing down, pausing, reflecting, and trying to find an alignment of the inner values. Sometimes the best thing to do in the coaching space, just to pause, to breathe, to feel, and to choose again. Let light shine. Let love shine. You see, because life doesn't need to be filled with extraordinary moments. It needs to be filled with presence in ordinary ones. I love this so much. I tell coaches all the time and tell my clients all the time, this is something, if you ask me what's my hallmark of my coaching and what is it like to coach with Jedi, I said, hey, because life doesn't need to be filled with extraordinary moments. One or two is great, but it needs to be filled with presence in ordinary one. I like to say the line one more time. Life needs to be filled with presence in ordinary one. With all the extraordinary things around us, we're always anticipating what's the extraordinary, what's that breakthrough, what's that moment. But we fail to realize that sometimes the presence in that ordinary ones, it's all that we need. The beauty in the presence, it's all that we need. So coaching presence, it's all about to show up, to hold a hand a little longer, to listen without rushing, to speak your love without perfection, and to cherish before you regret. Those moments are what defines us. Don't allow things to come your way and say, hey, I wish things was like that. I wish things was better. Don't let that define who you are. Because what really makes coaching different? It's for us to be, to show, to hold, to listen, to speak, to love. And I like this. When we think about what we shared today about regrets and cherish, 遗憾 and 珍惜, I want us to think about not just what I need to do next. What have I gained awareness of? Because if we think about all this, about what coaching presence means to us, that space in between, it's about to just do one thing. Cherish the moment, because 珍惜当下就是不让遗憾有机会发芽. To cherish the present is to deny regret its greatest chance to bloom. Are you allowing the regrets to bloom today, or are we cherishing that moment? Because when we can cherish the moment, something beautiful, magical happens for you.
Thank you for tuning in to The Coach Within. If today's episode sparked something in you, take a moment to reflect, journal, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Want to experience coaching or explore our upcoming programs? Head to jedi.coach or check out our show notes to connect. If this podcast helped you to grow, please follow, share, and leave a review. It helps more people to find us. And until next time, keep listening, keep reflecting, and keep braving your story from within.